Everybody, welcome back to Almost Game Day. As always, I'm your host, Sean Green. This week has been long, ladies and gentlemen. You had the election that was on Tuesday, and now it's Friday now. There's new things coming every day. That's kept me up. We've got a bunch of sports. You got the game last night, Green Bay, San Francisco. San Francisco had no receivers on the field, but it was still something. We've got a bunch of news coming out in the next couple weeks regarding the NBA, so we should have a NBA segment next week. We're not sure. The NBA is voting on when the NBA draft is going to be, when the season is actually going to start. So exciting stuff coming on the horizon. And for UCF students, the semester is almost over. You got Thanksgiving, Christmas finally coming up. So it's an exciting time in the United States, and especially here at UCF. But there is one negative right now at UCF, and it's in regards to the UCF football team. It got announced a couple days ago that right before the game against Houston, Antwan Collier was arrested. He had possession of unlicensed firearms. He didn't have a permit for those firearms, and it was just announced a couple days ago, actually, that Kenny Turnier, Randy Charlton, Eric Mitchell, and Antwan Collier were all let go from the football team. I guess the reason for this was Kenny Turnier was actually not in the original car with Antwan Collier. Turnier came in a separate car, and a bunch of the players started talking to the cops in an unprofessional way while the cops were doing their job. But the one problem that I'm having with this notion and releasing these players is, don't get me wrong, what they did and what they were saying to the cops is by no means okay. Absolutely not. And I don't think anybody is saying it was. But I think the response by UCF to completely let these players go, I'm not quite understanding it. These players, though, were saying some really bad things to the cops, coming to a situation that they didn't need to come to. They didn't put their hands on the cops. There was no extra effort to make it a bad situation where anybody was resisting. There was none of that going on. So when it got announced that these players were officially let go, first thing that came to my mind was, number one, these are 4 defensive starters on your defense. If you're talking football side, these guys have been on the team for years, and you're now letting 4 defensive starters go from your team. Second thought process is this a little too premature? This literally happened over the weekend, and not even a week goes by, and you're letting these players go. I don't understand it that much. I don't really get it. It's a little disappointing. These players were model players for the team. They made a bad decision by going to this site where Antwan Collier was getting arrested, but it's a little disappointing. I wish UCF would have really tried to have discussions with these players and really try to talk to these players about the issue and why it's not okay, and maybe doing a suspension or doing something drastic to teach these players a lesson. But by releasing them, I don't know if there's an underlying issue here, if these players have been notorious for maybe being troublemakers behind the scenes, and this was the last straw. We don't know. So hopefully, I don't know if we will, but I hope we can get some more information soon. But this is just an update on that issue regarding the UCF football team, where that stands, what that's going to look like for the defense moving forward. As we're about to play, you got Temple coming up next week. You got Cincinnati coming up. UCF needs to win that game. That's a big game. And this defense right now has a bunch of young players now at those starting positions. Tatum Bethune taking over probably now in that front 7, even though he is a linebacker. But it's very interesting. It is going to be a very interesting thing to see how UCF handles this. Not a good look for the team at all. and we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, the defense did look really good against Houston. It was the best defensive performance to date, but we will see. It's a little disappointing, so that's all I can say. I wish these players well. They were great players for UCF, and they seem like they are really great men. I know Kenny Tournier, and I'm assuming Eric Mitchell and all of the rest of them are going to put their name in the transfer portal, and I'm sure somebody will take a waiver on them and pick them up. So I wish them nothing but the best, and I'm sure they still, it was announced by Heupel that they're still going to have education. They're still going to have a education path at UCF. I don't know if that's on scholarship. I'm assuming on scholarship and health services, but I don't know. I'm assuming these players are going to leave and go try to play football somewhere else now that this is officially going to be counted as a red shirt and they have an extra year because of the pandemic. Now, what does that look like for UCF going forward? Like I said, you have a big game at Cincinnati in about a couple weeks. UCF right now is fighting for more recognition because of those 2 losses. Even though close, UCF is fighting to get some stability because right now they're slated to play in some, let's face it, not so big bowl games. Kind of like last year they played in the Gasparilla Bowl. But you had a freshman quarterback. Now you have a sophomore quarterback. And some could say, oh, that doesn't matter. You play what you play. Dylan Gabriel's in a Heisman candidate place right now. So when we look at this as a big picture, if they beat a team like Cincinnati, who is right now number 6 in the country, you set yourself up for a much better bowl game than you did if you beat Temple. The remaining schedule is favorable for UCF, but this game against Cincinnati, Temple's a hard team, though, so we need to watch Temple because Temple's got a good batch of young players over there, even though the record doesn't indicate it. I say you need to seriously, if we can beat Cincinnati, if UCF can go in, beat Cincinnati at home, UCF, I'm not saying has a good chance. I don't know if they have a chance to win the division. The chance of a New Year's Six Bowl is pretty much thrown out the window. But we need to be able, UCF needs to be able to play some Power 5 opponents. The only non-Power 5 opponent that I think UCF would be okay with playing is a Coastal Carolina because of the great season they've had. But UCF needs to continue to be known as the top Power 5 school, or non-Power 5 school in the nation, and keep getting these recruits. So if UCF can beat Cincinnati and play a Power 5 school, whether that be in the SEC or ACC, that's what UCF's going to have to do. That's their path to a notorious bowl game, and that's going to be beating Cincinnati. That's it for you, the UCF. I just wanted to update you on these players that are officially let go. Hopefully, the UCF defense looked as good as it did against Houston, but we'll find out in due time. All right, come on back. We're going to be doing my touchdown picks of the week. I give you my record from last week. Not going to lie, pretty good. So I've got some pretty good picks this week. Now, I'm going to say I like the board here. So come on back to Almost Game Day.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated chance, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back. Okay, always locked in, now I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask.
All right, welcome back to Almost Game Day. Like I said, as always, every week, if you're a fan of the show, touchdown picks of the week. Last week, I was 10-4. I had actually a pretty good week. Every week since that 6-8 week, I've gotten substantially better. 9-5, 10-4. We're going to try to go, let's see. 11-3 possibly this week. 12-2. I don't know. I do like the board here. That brings my total to 73-39. Again, really good picking wise. I'm loving the board this week. I'm gonna try. I really want to try to get into the 80s this week, but we'll see. With that being said, let's get into it. First game, probably one of my favorite games this week. Seahawks, Bills. Seahawks, like I said, you had that down week against Arizona, and I said, do not fret on the Seahawks. The Seahawks are fine. They've got a good enough team. They got a good pass rusher in Carlos Dunlap from the Bengals. The Seahawks are going to be playing the Bills. The Bills should have lost to the Patriots. We're not going to get into it. The Bills are not as good as people think. You can see when they actually play a good defense, Josh Allen is human. When they play a good team, the Bills are not as good. They're not as deep. So this is a 3-point spread. Seahawks win and cover. The Patriots score that touchdown at the end. They win by 4. So the Seahawks, I'm going to go Seahawks win and cover against the Bills. I don't even think it's that going to be close of a game. I did say that when the Rams played them. But the Seahawks are a much better team. Russell Wilson is going to expose this Bills defense, especially the Bills secondary, because the Bills secondary is not good. Titans, Bears. Titans, listen, the Titans really let one go last week. And that's why it's so hard this season, right? We look at the Titans and we say, great bunch of skill players, great defense, great quarterback, great running back. But then you go and play the Bengals, and the Bengals make them look like, a 2-5 team. So we're not getting good reads. There's only a couple teams in the league where we're like, okay, this is the type of team they are. So the same thing with the Bears, right? The Bears, we're not getting good reads. They're playing these teams and they're keeping it close, but it's either they're not pulling it out or, this offense is still not where it needs to be. So I do think it's a close game. I think actually both these teams are very similar, but also very different. I think the Titans do win because, listen, they need to make one up for that Bengals game. They're not going to be happy coming into this game losing last week. I say Titans win, but the Bears are notorious for keeping these games close. The Bears are never going to get blown out. There's only a couple instances that the Bears have just got steamrolled. I do think they keep it close, so I do think the Titans win, Bears cover the +6, and we move on to the next game. Ravens, Colts. Everybody's so high on the Colts. They've had a couple good wins here. I have not been high on them since the start of the season. Last week, Ravens let one go against the Steelers. In my touchdown picks last week, I said I did think the Ravens would win, and I said I think the Ravens would win. But I said the Steelers are going to cover. They're going to keep it close. Lamar does not play good against the Steelers. And what happened? Though I was wrong in not picking the Steelers to win, Lamar had a bad game. The Ravens didn't play good. The Steelers made him look bad. So I'm coming into this game and assuming Lamar's going to run all over the Colts. Like, I'm looking at this game as a bounce-back, hungry dog runs faster type of game for the Ravens. So I'm going to say Ravens win and cover the -2.5. That is a easy spread to bet on for the Ravens in this instance. That's 3 points. Lay the 2.5. You're fine. Raiders, Chargers. This game, I don't know how, so technically, and this is the one time I'm actually doing it, it's an even spread. So it's a pick-em game. So technically, you can't really go money line yet. You can't pick a money line because it's an even spread. So you're just picking a winner. So technically, you're only getting one pick with this game. Now, granted, this is being recorded on a Friday. These can shift. These lines can shift very quickly. So in 2 seconds, the Raiders can be favored or the Chargers can be favored. If I'm just picking a winner here, I'm going the Raiders. The Chargers do look good. And again, we're talking hungry dog runs faster. So in that case, I would pick the Chargers because, again, they were killing the Broncos. And then the Broncos came back and won by a point. But I feel like the Raiders are just the better team. I feel like they need this win. They're trying to stay in that, wild card playoff race. So I'm going to go Raiders here outright. But again, that's only one pick. So again, next week, it's not going to be out of 14. It's going to be 13 picks because of that game, the Raiders-Chargers. But I'll do this. How about I do this? Okay? Because I feel bad. That's like a cop-out. That's a cop-out for me because I want an extra pick. By Sunday, whatever the spread is, I'm taking the Raiders plus the spread. So if that spread is -1.5, I'm going Raiders plus the spread. So take the money line for the Raiders plus the spread for the Raiders in that case. So I would go Raiders win and cover whatever the spread is. Right now it's even, but cover the spread. Okay, now that we got that done, it's going to be 14 picks. So here we go. Steelers, Cowboys. I have a caveat for this game. right now you see the ticker. It says Steelers win and cover at -14. I hate betting on these games that are 2 touchdowns. I feel like that's too much. But I don't know who's playing quarterback. I was on bets yesterday, and I didn't get to have a chance to put my bet of the week. But everybody is betting the Steelers right now because you got DiNucci not going to start. Then you got a couple quarterbacks that the Cowboys are trying to see who's going to start. Nobody knows who's starting at quarterback for the Cowboys. And they're assuming whoever does start, they're not going to be that good at all. Like Andy Dalton's still out. The skill players, again, if the quarterback can't throw it to the skill players and Ezekiel Elliott's getting stopped at the line of scrimmage, you're not changing the score at all. So the Steelers, coming off big wins, we know who the Steelers are right now. Hard ground and pound, beat you in every which way, great defense, great offense. The Steelers are legit. But I will say this one thing, and I have a little theory. If Garrett Gilbert starts for the Cowboys, now I know many of you don't know who he is. Used to start for the Orlando Apollos back when that was still a thing, right? If Garrett Gilbert starts for the Cowboys, that kid is really good. He is going to be, he's a top backup in this league, and I don't think a lot of people know it. So if he starts against the Steelers, I do think the Cowboys could keep it somewhat close. Do I think they'll win? No. Do I think they could cover a 14-point spread? Probably. The guy can sling it. So that's a little caveat. I'm still going Steelers win and cover the -14 because I have no idea who's going to start for the Cowboys. But if Garrett Gilbert steps in, do not be surprised if that 14-point spread gets more like a 7 to 10 point. All right. Saints Bucks. This game's just frustrating. I looked at the spread, and the Bucks are favored by 5 points. I think people are forgetting week 1, and I know that the Saints, they haven't looked that good as the weeks have moved along, but I am not betting off the Saints here. I get Bucks are at home. Bucks now have Antonio Brown, whatever. I'm not getting off the Saints bandwagon. These two teams are very similar. Let's be real here. When a team has a good pass rush, Brady's not as good. I told you last week, the Giants, everybody was betting the Bucks. And I said, what happens when Tom plays the Giants? It's a close game. And what happened? It's a close game. The Giants had a good pass rush that night. I'm looking at this Saints team. They have a great pass rush. They get to Tom Brady. I think the Saints win and cover the +5. The Bucks are the easy bet here. I'm not going easy bet. I'm going take the opposite of Vegas in what they are assuming Tom Brady's going to do. Because right now, I don't know. I don't see Tom Brady beating the Saints right now. Just based off this team, I don't know. I could be completely wrong, but again, I'm hoping. I am hoping for a Saints win and to cover that +5. But again, that's money line and spread. So if you don't feel comfortable with the Saints winning, take the Bucks money line. But when it comes to covering a spread, guys, you can easily take the Saints +5 and, just be fine taking that. And our final game on the slate, Pats-Jets. This game's terrible. Monday Night Football, man. I don't know what it is. These games, they're just awful. Patriots, 2-5. Jets, 0-7, 0-8. If we look at it logistically, and this is why I have the Pats to win and cover. This is the game where the Pats have looked good. They looked good last week against the Bills. Defense is still playing pretty good. Again, we're looking the Pats offense. They struggled in the first half up against the Bills, and they picked that up coming into the second half. Should have won the game. Cam fumbled. It is what it is. But I'm looking at this Pats game, and I think this is a game that could probably get them back on track, right? It's a 7-point spread. Bill knows how to stop a Jets team, regardless. Adam Gase, the team is not that good. Sam Darnold, I'm seeing ghosts against the Patriots. I feel like it's going to be same old, same old. So, again, Pats win and cover that -7. But, again, this could be potential to get the Pats some confidence, losing 4 straight. They're so tired of losing. They've got a great running back in Damian Harris. They just picked up a wide receiver via trade from Miami who's looking to take over that Julian Edelman spot now that Julian Edelman does, he might be on IR for some time. We're going to keep looking at this, but the Pats potentially could make some runs in the next coming weeks to close the spread. We're not saying they're going to make the playoffs or anything, but they will close that margin of, instead of 2-5, they might be 5-5 or 5-6, but we will see. All right, that's been Almost Game Day for today. I didn't want to take up too much of your time. We got election stuff again continuing. I want you guys to focus on a bunch of other stuff. You got finals coming up. You've got portfolios due. So I didn't want to take up too much of your time. Quick 20-minute episode. Next week, we've got a bunch of stuff. NBA, like I said, NBA, a bunch of news. Might be doing NBA draft predictions. We don't know. And again, we've got some special guests coming up in a couple of weeks. We've taken a bunch of weeks off from having guests on, but with, a bunch of sports closing off, we're having some big hitter guests coming up. So stay tuned for that. Like always, if you haven't followed me or Hitting the Field on Twitter, our handles are right there, at Sean M.R. Green, at Hitting the Field on Twitter. Please follow us, DM us, do whatever you want. If you're interested in joining HTF, DM us on any social platform. We would love to hear from you. With that being said, it's been Almost Game Day. Enjoy the games this weekend, guys.